Long ago, I learned that all engineering is a matter of designing machines to solve problems. I'm Neil Armstrong. In the Apollo program, I acquired a respect for the ability of Chrysler Corporation engineering to help solve some of the incredible problems of space travel. Now I've seen what they've done for cars, and I'm convinced Chrysler engineering has solved many of the problems that concern all drivers. By pioneering the use of front-wheel drive in small American-built cars, they've given them a new kind of control, handling. The bigger cars, they have engines and transmissions that are right for the times. Sport coupes have been given clean, aerodynamic designs that slice through the wind. As an engineer, I find the cars from Chrysler Corporation exciting, innovative approaches to the needs we all have today. I think you will, too.
It's possible that there's only one civilization in the Milky Way galaxy. There may only have ever been one, and there may only ever be one. And that's us. We may be the first and last. That's important. If you're looking for a hint as to how we should behave politically, towards each other, towards our planet, then this idea matters. Imagine that the Earth is the only place in a galaxy where intelligent life exists. The only place where collections of atoms as old as time have come together into improbable patterns that can think and feel and bring meaning to an otherwise meaningless universe. How should we behave? Surely, notwithstanding the fact that we're tiny, fragile things on a mote of dust, orbiting around one star amongst 400 billion, we must consider ourselves and our world to be inconceivably valuable.
Going extinct is a bad thing.
Ancestors of tomorrow. This is an intervention. Earth is talking to you today, and Earth has plenty to say. Be architects of something new, protectors of the day. Be shining final hopes, designers of chance and change. The hour is crimson, turning, turning. The hour is bruising, bluing, blue. We are human, and we owe our home. Let's pay our home dues.
I apologize for the way this process has unfolded, and I'm deeply sorry.
So we're used to thinking of, a few people at a time going up to space. You're talking about massive numbers, and I mean, are you talking about planet-based orb-based colonies?
Even if you were to terraform Mars or do something very dramatic like that, which would be very, very challenging, by the way, even if you were to do that, that is at most a doubling of Earth. Then you're going from 10 billion people to 20 billion people. If, on the other hand, if you build these large colonies, each colony may hold 1 million people. This is an idea first investigated by a Princeton professor named Jerry O'Neill, who asked his students a question, a very fundamental question, which is a planetary surface the right place for humanity to expand in the solar system? And kind of to his surprise, he and his students, after evaluating this, decided no, it probably made more sense to build colonies. These colonies are miles long, they're rotated for artificial gravity, they're probably near Earth so that you can return to Earth when you want to. I think in the foreseeable future, people are not going to want to leave Earth vicinity. It's going to be nice to be able to come home every once in a while. This place is special. You can't ruin it.
So if this happens, again, I'm interested in your sense of the numbers of people. We're talking, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, hundreds of millions.
Well, millions of people will move from Earth to space over time, and that's the vision of Blue Origin, millions of people living and working in space. But over centuries, many people will be born in space. It'll be their first home, and they will be born on these colonies, live on these colonies. They may visit the Earth the way you would visit, Yellowstone National Park.
Who gets to stay on Earth?
And these colonies will not be like the International Space Station. They will be, they'll have rivers and forests and wildlife, and they're places where you can use a lot of energy and not be damaging this fragile planet.
Collections of atoms as old as time that came together in improbable patterns that can think and feel and give meaning to an otherwise meaningless universe. That particular line in the inspirational video shown at COP26 in Scotland to the climate change justice warriors of the world kind of jumped out at me. Because in actuality, if that is all that you and I are at the end of the day, then what would exposing any of this craziness going on in the world even matter? If you really allow the thread of that line of thinking play out in the world over many generations, specifically generations who have themselves witnessed never before seen advances in technology and the harnessing of the elements, the construction of man-made edifices and systems and networks and cities and indeed everything that modern civilization now comprises. And to really believe that we as a species, but if we are the ones who give meaning to everything that goes on in life, building all that we build, dreaming all that we dream, seeking a technological answer for everything in order to eventually give meaning to an otherwise meaningless universe. Ultimately, I'd say there's nothing that you cannot rationalize in the way of totalitarianism disguised as altruism. And when I listen to somebody like Jeff Bezos speaking, that was just a few weeks ago at some summit, and who knows if deep down this man really believes in this glorious future that he's envisioning and describing for the audience. On one hand, part of me really thinks that they do, that men like him are very convinced that what they're talking about is just inevitable and hard to believe for many folks, but every bit as real as the fact that he makes the comparison elsewhere to people in the days of the Wright brothers trying to imagine 787s and jet airliners and things like that. And of course, we can point to so many different examples, with whether it's digital technology or plenty of other things that previous generations could not have fathomed being possible. And so, even just going back to the normalization of the automobile or electricity, revolutionizing day-to-day life for masses of people in the world that people in all previous generations would have found inconceivable. But listening to this particular snippet where he's talking about how in a few hundred years, because terraforming Mars and all that is really just not an option and too expensive, which is ironic because the whole argument about having to eventually move off of Earth is supposedly because we're terraforming this one. So in order to save the Earth, we eventually have to kind of move off the Earth and just preserve it as like a nature preserve. And we're going to live in these awesome condominium complexes in space where there'll be rivers and forests and it'll be great. just like being on Earth. what does that really mean about society when the second richest man in the world, officially? But yeah, he's a big media puppet, is really what it amounts to, just like so many others. But this narrative, of course, is being welcomed and celebrated and endorsed by this whole symposium or whatever it is. I mean, giant cities in space, man. I mean, like, why would anybody not think that was a great feature? It sounds silly. Like, what's the point of even bringing this up? But I mean, when you stop and go, so if somebody could genuinely accept that idea in their mind, like that would be some sort of advancement in the human experience, to basically stick a bunch of people in a complete artificial environment, we can just replicate everything you'd really need. We can replicate rivers and that's no big deal. We'll do it in space, and you'll have gravity and live in your little, how big are the apartments going to be in these giant space colonies, Bezos? Pretty roomy, or is it more like you just plug into the, I'm sure in a couple 100 years the metaverse will just be so dynamite. I don't even care where you are. And if you really have a hankering to smell some fresh, to be around some real trees, you can go to Earth like Yellowstone. That if you can seriously even entertain that thought, even in a deluded billionaire goober kind of way, obviously he's not the only person, but even if you're just to have these discussions, and you think about, like, how are these discussions had just out in the open, and it's just normal, it's not considered insane. But then when you turn around and say, hey, there are rich and powerful people who are very obsessed with engineering and directing and implementing a certain vision of the future of humanity for millions of people, and what their lives should look like, and how technology is going to be a central component of that, and nobody seems to be asking them, you know what I mean? Social engineering, it's all the same thing. The only difference here is that one of them has this sort of dystopian conspiracy aversion aura around it, and another one is Star Trek and The Final Frontier and innovation and sci-fi meets reality, delusion. The American dream and the uniquely American kind of construct of suburbia has all sorts of interesting parallels and interplay with the uniquely American obsession with space travel and NASA and, this whole bizarre legacy of going to the moon, in the sense that they're both kind of more a state of mind in the end. This strange, like, Jetsons cartoon that covers up what should otherwise be a very alarming trajectory of history and society on so many levels. And yet I'm continually fascinated by the things that people hear and have, negative reactions to, or the things that they find alarming, and the things that they're just so accustomed to there's no reaction at all. This kind of hypnotic state.
You owe me $95,000 and I want it now.
But what about me and my 4 children?
I'm going to have to sell the cattle ranch.
How much?
$200,000.
Oh. I've got to pay my father-in-law $10,000.
Oh, why not buy insurance? Decisions. Oh, Amy. Lawyer Sally,
There's a game called Life that's really worth living. You and your family have got to play it. The Game of Life, from Milton Bradley.
But we can overdo it. By burning coal and oil and wood, we're adding carbon dioxide to the atmosphere and slowly warming the Earth. Unless we're very careful, there's a danger that we'll catastrophically alter the climate of our small world. Venus is a warning. And there's also the opposite danger, that through nuclear war, we'll undo the greenhouse effect and plunge the Earth into ice age conditions. An early warning of this risk was provided, surprisingly, by the study of comets. Every now and then, a big piece of a comet enters the Earth's atmosphere. When we look at the paths of comets, we can see why.
Metaverse. The metaverse, it's a future that is beyond any one company, that will be made by all of us. We're seen as a metaverse company. Our company is now Meta.
How does space and the belief in this massive cosmos and evolution and the Big Bang and all that, how does that tie into pantheistic monism, which is the core of New Age spirituality? It actually ties in so much more than a lot of people want to realize at first glance. And so that's really, when you break it down, that's really what is being downloaded into the minds of the public when they believe in the globe and they believe in the solar system and the Copernican universe. It's much more than just having a false construct of the physical world around them. It is a spiritual teaching that's embedded in that. And even guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson, when he likes to wax poetic about what it means to have a cosmic perspective, I mean, you hear the same pantheistic message coming through.
The universe intrigues us all. There may be some genetically encoded force that we illuminate, that we bring forward when we look up at night and wonder, where did we come from? Where are we now? Where are we headed in the future? And the cosmic perspective is one where all of Earth is one. Because though this be 20 inches across, with political boundaries identified, when actually viewed from space, it's just ocean, land, and atmosphere. From space, we are not compelled to divide ourselves because we occupy this lone, frail spaceship Earth. And when you are not compelled to divide yourself, there's the urge to say we're in this together. We're in this so much together that, you know, you think of family, and you say, that's my family, but you're not in my family. Excuse me. The boundary between what is in family and what is not is completely culturally determined. It's cultural. Because any two of us in this room, if you go far enough back the tree of life, have a common ancestor. So we could draw it that far back and say we are family. You can keep going back and find the common ancestor with the rest of the apes, with dogs, with an oak tree. We have DNA in common. And there's so many people who want to say we are special because we're different. But I have a different, I say we are special because we are the same. We are part of this world where we have DNA in common with yeast, with oak trees, with these insects that scurry under brush. This is the commonality of life on Earth. And then you learn about molecules and atoms. We have the same atoms that are in stars. So now you look up, we are common with the universe as well. So for me, the cosmic perspective, which I know if people had, you would never be leading armies into battle. Do you know how ridiculous it looks to the person with the cosmic perspective that one general says to the other, I'm going to conquer that land across this line. You're going to do what? What? On this speck you call Earth? You're going to you want to kill people for what? For oil, for energy, for real? We got to look what the cosmic perspective reorders what is important in this world. And it does it in, I think, the noblest of ways, by recognizing not what makes us all different, but what makes us all common. Together, alone, with the fate of our planet and our civilization in our hands.
It's also interesting to note that virtual reality is something that NASA has been working on even back as far as the 80s and trying to pioneer concepts with helmets and 360-degree views and all this. And it's just been a long-standing sort of branch of this whole agenda. And when you think about that in conjunction with the concept of infinite space, of infinite vastness, of infinite possibility, they believe in countless alien planets and the possibility of life and what all evolution could have conceived of and how we're part of that process and we're connected to it and blah, 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 blah. You start to see how this cultivation of the imagination is really what is propelling so many of the New World Order objectives. When it comes to transhumanism, when it comes to infusing technology with genetics and with the Internet of Everything, and trying to conceive of the future in a way where we transcend our current status, transcend our current limitations, and using technology, using design, using the development of our knowledge cooperatively as a species and all that. It really is this giant fantasy, this giant virtual reality that sort of everyone collectively is participating in, not just while they're watching films or putting on headsets and things like that, but in all of our minds all the time. And there is a reason for it, and it is a spiritual reason. It is the false gospel of Mystery Babylon coming to fruition, capturing the hearts and minds of generations now. Compelling them to believe not just that they are insignificant, but that they are significant because we are evolving and we're participating in our own evolution. And that eventually we can solve all these political problems, solve all these environmental problems, solve even the problem of death itself, and achieve our own immortality. I mean, that's all embedded in it. It is all inseparable from this paradigm. And we've been indoctrinated to believe in the core Luciferian lie that we can be like God, that we can unlock the secrets of the universe, that we can explore the vast expanses of time and space and break down all the intricacies of matter and energy and the fabric of the cosmos. Dark matter and dark energy and all these other crazy concepts they come up with. It really all is the ancient occult dreams repackaged into just the science fiction presentation. We talk about, breaking the programming, breaking the matrix, pulling out of all the globe propaganda and the brainwashing. But if people don't understand the spiritual message behind this belief in space, in the Big Bang and evolution, then it makes sense that we even see people coming to realize that the Earth has no curvature and that space is definitely not this endless physical expanse full of supernovas and black holes and all that, but yet they still want to cling to the underlying spiritual teachings of transcendence and self-improvement, self-directed evolution, and all these things. And so I just pray that more and more people would start to consider those realities, start to consider the spiritual propaganda that's being pushed within this cosmological propaganda. So I ask you, are you a collection of atoms as old as time that simply came together in improbable patterns that can think and feel and give meaning to an otherwise meaningless universe? Or were you in fact made in the image of God and inconceivably valuable to Him, the one who gives meaning to everything under the sun, the one who gives meaning to every aspect of life, and who calls you by name because He loves you more than anything else in all of creation?